we go. Here we go. Here we go. We got one from Black Conservative. Here we go. Let's go.
A scathing new report tonight about California's response to the homeless crisis. The state auditor says the state has spent $20 billion in 5 years, but can't meaningfully track the spending or measure results.
Well, KCAL News reporter Joy Benedict is live in North Hollywood tonight with more. Joy?
Yeah, guys, I mean, this was a very lengthy audit that was put out by the state earlier today. And what it shows is really everyone's fear, right? That we're throwing a lot of money at a problem and the problem isn't going to be fixed. And although that may be what the audit says on surface level, those who work with the homeless say it's just not that simple. In a community like the Arts District of North Hollywood, the streets are always packed with patrons, neighbors, and the unhoused.
They clear them and then they come back, then they clear them, then they come back.
I've only been in the area since 2018, and in those few years, I've seen it increase almost exponentially. It is very sad.
Numbers a new state audit confirm, as the state legislative audit committee released a report saying that homeless numbers jumped 53% in the last decade, with an estimated 180,000 people unhoused in California. That's despite the spending of more than $20 billion to stop it.
My initial reaction is that this is a big problem.
Political analyst Jessica Levinson says the even bigger issue in the report is the lack of accountability, as the audit can't verify that 3 of the 5 homeless programs the state is funding are working.
And the government is failing to account for where the money is being used and if it's being used wisely.
They're not saying the money was misused. They're saying they just can't account for where the money went.
There certainly are no allegations here of misappropriation of funds, but this is just a black hole in a space where we need information.
Those who work with the homeless say it's just not that simple.
The key reason that our homeless numbers are going up is because more people are falling into homelessness.
Boy. So we got to talk about a bombshell story out of Southern California that explains why is it that Democrats are so incompetent when it comes to solving the homelessness crisis in California. Well, it's like I try to tell you guys all the time, is because at the end of the day, a lot of these individuals who are receiving these funds, they're not incentivized to actually solve homelessness, right? They're incentivized to get money to do absolutely nothing about homelessness, and then to reapply for more funds, right? And that's essentially what this story is about, okay? Involving a couple of fraudulent businessmen, one by the name of Cody Holmes and the other by the name of Stephen Teller. Now, they have been arrested and charged by the DOJ for defrauding the Democrats running the state out of millions of dollars in grants that are supposed to go to fight homelessness. However, as you guys saw at the beginning of this video, Democrats, because they're so damn incompetent, they spent $20+ billion to fight homelessness. However, they don't have any way to audit where the money actually went, right? They don't have any way to show that the money went to where it was supposed to go and that the outcomes that they were looking for actually happened. Again, this is what Democrats do, right? They just throw money at random people, at their friends, okay? And their friends go out to solve these problems that never get solved. And then, lo and behold, Democrats are giving more money to their friends to solve problems that never get solved. And, yeah, there's never any accountability except today, right? Except now, there is accountability, not coming from the Democrats or the state of California, but coming from the federal government, the Trump DOJ, because they have, again, announced charges against individuals who have been found to be involved in fraudulent schemes with these funds that, again, were supposed to be used to fight homelessness. Take a look.
Of the Homeless Fraud and Corruption Task Force to get to the bottom of where billions of California tax dollars intended to solve homelessness ended up. California has spent more than $24 billion over the last 5 years with little to no progress in solving our homelessness epidemic. California state officials failed to provide meaningful oversight over the individuals who received most of these funds, and they had little to no answers to the public's demand for accountability. Well, that accountability starts today. Today we are announcing significant developments into our investigation. We're making public 2 criminal cases relating to 2 separate real estate developers who were involved in misappropriating millions of state funds intended to combat homelessness. This morning, federal agents arrested Cody Holmes, a 31-year-old Beverly Hills resident and the former CFO of Shangri-La Industries, a downtown LA-based developer of affordable housing, for defrauding the Home Key program that is administered by the state of California. The program awarded grant money, which included federal tax dollars, for specific projects to convert motels into housing for the homeless and to operate the units. By April of 2022, Shangri-La Industries, where Holmes was the CFO, had co-applied with multiple California cities to convert numerous properties in California, including a location in Thousand Oaks. The state asked for proof that the company had the financial capacity to build all the projects. In response, Holmes and Shangri-La knowingly submitted fake bank statements which claimed to show that developer had about $160 million on deposit. Not only were the bank statements fake, our investigation shows that Shangri-La and its affiliates had nowhere near the amount of money they claimed they had in the fake bank statements. The state agency ultimately paid nearly $26 million directly to the developer for the Thousand Oaks project. Even though the developer received all the money from the state, the developer did not complete the construction of the Thousand Oaks project. Instead, our investigation has showed that at least $2.2 million was diverted to pay Mr. Holmes' American Express bill, which includes purchases at luxury retailers. Essentially, he stole the money.
He stole the money. He stole the money, right? Sounds about right. Okay, sounds about right in regards to how a lot of these woke programs go. So without further ado, let's learn a little bit more about what happened here, because I think that this is much more prevalent than just two people. I think that a lot of these liberal nonprofits that are receiving these funds are fraudulent, to be honest with you. But again, I think that this is a good start in regards to accountability. So let's get into it.
All right, tonight, stunning new details on what happened to almost $26 million in taxpayer money that was supposed to be used to build new housing for the homeless. CBS LA political reporter Tom Waite live in Thousand Oaks to show us what we've uncovered. Tom?
And good evening to you, Juan. So many people might remember earlier this week, the acting U.S. attorney announced charges in his ongoing audit and investigation of where taxpayer money is going in terms of the homeless crisis. Well, we've learned new details tonight that are pretty disturbing. In fact, this hotel is at the center of it. The guy that was supposed to spend about $20-something million on this motel to rehab it, to turn it into homeless housing, well, instead of using it for that, as you can see, it's still abandoned, he used it for private jet flights and for things like VIP tickets to Coachella. This shuttered, dilapidated motel in Thousand Oaks was supposed to be transformed into permanent housing for the homeless. It was part of Governor Newsom's signature program called Project Home Key, turning old motels across the state into supportive housing for the homeless. But this project, like many others, was never completed. So what happened? Where did the money go? U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley this week announced charges in connection with this project, claiming the funds were stolen.
Federal agents arrested Cody Holmes, a 31-year-old Beverly Hills resident and the former CFO of Shangri-La Industries. Our investigation has showed that at least $2.2 million was diverted to pay Mr. Holmes' American Express bill.
Stolen, the feds say, by Holmes to fund a lavish lifestyle. According to a civil complaint against Holmes, he spent $53,000 for VIP tickets to Coachella, $43,000 for a flight on a private jet, $111,000 on an Hermes crocodile bag, $5,000 monthly for a Ferrari Portofino lease, $100,000 on a diamond-encrusted Audemars Piguet watch. There were also payments for expensive properties in Beverly Hills, a student loan payment, and more.
Wow, this dude literally spent the money on everything except the homelessness, right? Again, this is... I'm not surprised, right? Honestly, I'm not even shocked. I mean, let's be real. This was Gavin Newsom's program. And see, this thing about Democrats that I can't stand, okay? Because, again, Democrats, they like to appeal to simple-minded folks, right? They'll come out and say, well, see, I spent $20 billion fighting homelessness, right? They'll say that as if that's something to be proud of, right? They'll talk about how much money they spend on this, how much money they spend on that, but they never talk about actual outcomes, okay? What are the actual outcomes of the money that you're spending, okay? Because I had a friend from Los Angeles sent me pictures of South Central Los Angeles, and this was just 1 minute, right? 1 minute on some random street corner. You see all of this trash, this garbage, homelessness. Like, I mean, it just looks bad. It looks terrible, right? It looks absolutely terrible. So, again, the question is, what are the outcomes here, right? What problems are being solved? Are you actually getting people off the street? Apparently, Democrats didn't care about that. Gavin Newsom's program didn't care about that. But yet he'll go out and he'll say, well, see, I spent such and such and such with my program to fight homelessness, right? And, you know, that's the game, right? That's the game, is to appeal to low information voters, right?
In all, his company received $26 million to rehab this motel, and it appears almost nothing was done.
Even though the developer received all the money from the state, the developer did not complete the construction.
Shangri-La got over $100 million in state contracts to convert 7 motels across California. Only 2 were ever completed.
Ding, ding, ding. Like I told you guys, what do they do, right? What do? They get the money, and then they do nothing, right? They do a little bit to show, oh, okay, well, I'm doing something, right? You do some here, you do some there, but for the most part, you don't do anything, okay? And then you go back and you reapply for funds, and you continue to get the funds over and over and over again, and you don't ever really do anything, right? You don't solve any real problems. Okay? There's no incentive to solve the problem because they actually really use the funds for what it was supposed to be used for. If they actually did solve the homelessness problem, then they would stop receiving funds, right? They would stop getting money. Again, that is one of the biggest issues when it comes to our politics. There is no incentive to solve problems. There are actually incentives to create more problems, because the more problems that you create, then that justifies spending more money, right? That justifies raising taxes on people in order to solve these problems, right? Again, once you understand the game, how it works, you understand just how big of a scam a lot of this stuff is, especially when you talk about these liberal nonprofits. Nonprofits are some of the biggest scams in this country.
2024, Holmes's boss filed that civil lawsuit against him for defrauding the company, which is now in bankruptcy. Federal prosecutors say California spent $24 billion in tax money on the homeless crisis, and they are just beginning to audit the programs and promise more charges if they find more fraud.
The state asked for proof that the company had the financial capacity to build all the projects. In response, Holmes and Shangri-La knowingly submitted fake bank statements which claimed to show that developer had about $160 million on deposit.
So pretty intense there. The allegations against Holmes could send him to prison for 20 years if he's convicted on these charges. Reporting live in Thousand Oaks, I'm Tom Waite, CBS LA.
Yeah. So you have the Trump administration doing the dirty work, right, that Democrats should be doing if they actually gave a damn about the use of taxpayer funds in their state, but they don't, right? They don't care. All they care about is getting their friends paid. Somebody needs to check the political affiliations of this guy, right? I guarantee you this guy probably some way is connected to high-level Democrats, and that's why he kept receiving the money. But I guarantee you, it's not just this individual and the other guy that they got. There are a lot more individuals that are doing this, okay? Because this scam is extremely profitable, right? Check out a lot of Brandon Johnson's friends, right? A lot of Brandon Johnson's friends, all of these Democrats, they're liberal nonprofit friends. All these people should be investigated, right? To be honest with you, every single last one of them should be investigated, because I guarantee you, this is a lot more prevalent than people think. And again, this is, one of the reasons why I am not very high on these nonprofits, especially these liberal nonprofits. I'm not very high on this stuff anymore because it sounds good to say, oh, well, I gave money to a nonprofit and whatnot. But half of these nonprofits, they don't do what they claim they're doing, right? They pay themselves. They take the money, they pay themselves, and they use a little bit of it to, pretend like they're doing something. But for the most part, they're not doing anything but enriching themselves, right? You running a nonprofit and you running around driving Ferraris and, living in nice houses and buying expensive stuff, expensive watches and crazy stuff. Again, we've seen way too much of this, right? We've seen this too much. And it's about time that we get some accountability. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black.
Go follow.